Since I was a little kid, challenging authority always scared me, and changing the world seemed like a lot of hard work. I'd still prefer to go back to where nobody knows who I am, nobody likes or dislikes me, but it's too late for that now. So I'm going to vent a little bit. This is almost completely unplanned. I'm going to share some ideas that certain people will want to discard and label me as insane. So my ideas are not valid. Look, when I played football a little bit in high school, I got a concussion. I went through the concussion protocol and they asked me like what day of the week it was, maybe like a basic math question, and they let me go back and play. So I'm going to do the concussion protocol test for y'all. That way, no one can say my ideas are crazy because I'm sane. Okay. So for the basic math, I brought in Drake. He's going to help us out here.
Square root of 69 is 8 something, right?
He knew the answer to that. And Rihanna's going to handle the other concussion protocol question.
What's my name? What's my name? What's my name?
And I'll answer that. My name is Dayton Carr. But if I say something that offends too many people, I'm gonna be like Enrique or something. I'll get a fake ID and I'll hide forever. Hey, Nova, babe. I got us some popcorn, babe. Hey, we're gonna talk some shit. All right. Here we go. Hey, babe. You doing okay in there? Hey, you. Hey, babe. Popcorn for you. Yeah, love you. Hey, you. There's Nova. Say hi, babe. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. I got my reading light, babe, in case you want to read some books later, okay? Oh. Okay, let's see. I think we got it, babe. And another very realistic critique will be of my motives. You know, I'm trying to make money the easy way by not going back to work and stuff. That's accurate. But I'm not in it for money completely. If I can make $20,000 a year talking crap and playing chess, I'd be so much happier than the $80K I was making. I had to do things that weren't as kind and arguably illegal. So my motives, good girl, no. So my motives, aside from just making enough money to feed my dog here, I can't listen to some of this crap. I can't even turn on the TV anymore without literally having a headache. And again, if Lupe Fiasco would start a podcast, or people in power were, not all people in power are dumb. There are a lot of very bright people in power and a lot of very good people in power. But there are enough dumb people that they talk louder and longer. And I get real annoyed before the smart people have a chance to get a word in. Hey, because you know, smart people tend to shut their mouths and listen more. And I certainly agree. No one ever wins when there's a fight. I've actually never been in a physical fight. A couple of verbal altercations, which my trash talking has significantly improved over the last couple of years. So I win those most of the time now. But though I still don't advocate fighting, what happens when people who have some intelligence and a heart, like I do a lot of stuff for money, man. Money makes the world go round. But I do have my line. And what happens when people who still kind of care about other people just shut up and don't fight? That's a scary world also. That's why I have to take my introverted self, blow all my money on a podcast, and then not sleep as comfortably at night because I know my truth is going to offend some people. But when I analyzed my decision, the pros and cons of starting a podcast last March-ish, I tried to be as logical about my decision to start a podcast, including the likely outcomes if I do. And my deciding factor was actually this. I had to sit at my previous job, a lot of great people at Walmart corporate, and I'm sure other corporate places, but I had to sit and listen to mostly males talk and talk and talk, usually get applause, and then get paid, live a very comfortable life with a very good salary. And about a year into that job, listening to all that talking, I ain't that smart, but I realized some of it had to be BS. And now I'm sure it was. And I'm still thankful for the opportunity to work at Walmart corporate. But there ain't no amount of money on this planet that will get me to just go and run my mouth and think I'm important just because people clap for me. Like the people that clap for some, not all of those males are bad people. Some of them are. But the applause for some of those men who were not good speakers, not good looking, not smart, the applause was from the people who work under them because they don't want to get fired or get their visa removed. And I truly think some of those men were that dumb. They really thought they had respect. I shut my mouth for so long, and now it's all coming out. Because those dudes at my previous job got paid at least $100K, probably more than that, to say nonsense. All nonsense. And I just say a little bit of nonsense, baby. Let's play some chess. You doing all right, Nope? Hey, I'll try to keep my emotions intact. Hey, it's not your fault. Dad's a little fucked up. Screwed up, sorry. And with the COVID business, another one of my reasons to at first respectfully challenge authority and then just completely not care anymore, because once you get labeled as somebody who has a heart or isn't going to just nod their head, you can't get that label away. That's why I play chess and talk shit a lot now. Ah, shoot. But my analysis, which proved to be fairly accurate, I analyzed when the pandemic hit the US around March or April of last year. I set aside a few hours and I wrote down the likely outcomes of COVID in the short term, next few months, and then the long term until it kills us all. And that's what's fascinating, is some of those folks with all kinds of degrees and awards and certifications, they were too smart to realize that the pandemic was just the beginning of a whole ripple effect of change. And I'm not smart enough to get caught up in all their ass kissing and socializing. So I was like, okay, the people I worked with in business were looking at the pandemic in terms of how does that affect their pretty little lives? And I looked at it from the perspective of how is that going to affect the human brain and therefore human nature? And then I got real scared. I did a lot of if-then statements in my journal, and I came to the conclusion that if the pandemic extended past early May of last year, it's just like computers. COVID's not going back in its box. Can't get it back. And then when May hit, I was sure that I needed to get out of corporate, because I realized there'd be that window of time where the little guys, in Walmart's case, the store associates, but other companies, it's not just Walmart. The system's messed up. Walmart does a lot of good stuff too. But I realized the little guys would finally actually have a voice. Not just, yeah, we listen, and then they go to the lake. No, they would actually be forced to listen to their heroes, because they're risking their lives and health of their families. And then I calculated, I think accurately, that window of time where the poor or middle class, they'll have a short window where they can stop the rich from just absolutely dominating society, like to where they have too much power and will never get it back. And that window would be, if it's not closed already, now or in the past few months, if the poor and middle class don't stand up and say, hey, I don't care how much money you have, those are real people, man. If some people don't do that with some influence, and ideally speaking ability would be a strong characteristic, if some people don't do that soon, the rich will have even more power and it will never be possible to get it back. It would have to take somebody crazy enough to develop a platform, just a little bit of intelligence to where they don't sound like a complete lunatic, but not enough intelligence to where they won't say some true shit. They don't think too long-term perspective. The type of person who would need to challenge authority in a respectful way would have to create a one-night stand podcast and bring anyone who's got some guts on to talk and try to fix some of the messes. That's what it would take, probably, is something like that. Because I'm not one of those guys that's just like, oh yeah, I'll totally just, I'd rather die than live in this world. No, I don't want to die. I'm not that dumb. I'm not saying I'd rather just die because I find life and the world that depressing. I'm a big fan of life. But I will say, if you can make life better, it'd be kind of dumb to not make life better, right? I think so. Except for with capitalism, especially publicly traded companies, corporate America. And it's not the CEO's fault or the stockholders, but they are incentivized to do good, but not too much good. Capitalism works essentially, from my experience, you have to have enough problems. I hate to say it, but if you don't create some problems or allow some problems in the US economy, you'll go extinct, because you can't just go and fix problems, because the American economy runs by having problems to fix. Unfortunately, in my experience, a little bit, if everything's going well and there are no problems, selfish people will intentionally create problems, okay, break a system. Let's take the night, just said I don't want to think about it. Break a system so they'll have something to fix. They'll get promoted for fixing something they broke or turned a blind eye to being broke. And then they'll leave that mess for the next person. And that's when you get cyber attacks. You get a bunch of messy stuff. And I'm not saying the world's ever been perfect. I'm not saying that it needs to be, because that'd be real boring. But I will say this. I don't think it's reasonable or anywhere near, I hate to say the word fair because life's not fair, but there's nothing right about people being in a position of influence and making it worse for the generation to come. Get your horse out of my party, guy. For example, the CEOs, as they should, they're smart. They've earned their opportunities in some cases. They have a lot of influence. $9:02. I'm real good on time. But the challenge is human nature is and always will be at least somewhat selfish. During times of stress, such as pandemics, you can't see people in person. And that simply means, let's pin your horse. It's pinned. But that's real bad, because the people who have authority to change things for the better are often the ones who are incentivized not to. And if a rich business person can make more money, I don't really blame them for making more money. I think there should be a moral component to it. Boom, boom. But that's my fear, is the people who have the authority to change things for the better will not, because it won't help their own selfish motives. And the only saving grace would be if they were wanting to leave the world a better place for their kids. But millionaires and billionaires' kids will never have to work a day in the life of the mess their dads and possibly moms, though women tend to be much more mature and professional in business on average. But they're not going to live in the mess they're creating, and that sucks for us. Yep. Okay. Cool. All right, let's play wellness in game. Get our king centralized. That's fine. Let me win this battle against enemy in the end game here real quick, and then we'll get back to talking. I don't see a way you break through over there. Is there a way I can crush your dreams over here? I think so. I think I can crush his dreams on this side. I don't know if I love that move at all. Okay, that's fine. This might be a draw. And then you get into the robots taking over, and I don't actually think we're going to be, like, I hate the word slave. Like, I don't think we're going to be a victim of robots. I don't think they're going to actually run society in our lifetime, in my generation's lifetime. I'm 26, so in the next 50 to 60 years, I don't think robots will have what it takes to own us. You know, like, I don't consider my dog property because she's a person with feelings and ideas. Hey, Nova, love you, babe. But I mean, most people would say I own Nova. And though my ownership of Nova is true love, even if a robot loved me, I wouldn't like being owned by a robot. And my primary mission outside of the business and chess part of my life is to simply create a world where I can justify having a kid. You're going to win that pawn. Good for you. I hope you're happy. And right now I can't do that. I think every human wants to have kids. I think it's a human nature or human. I don't know that for sure. I haven't researched it, but I feel like every person on earth has some natural inclination to want to reproduce. If nothing else, crap. You know, I'm going to mess up a lot. I think I've got some potential, but I'm probably not going to fulfill it because I hate stalemate draws, man. That's okay, though. But I think if I had a kid, I could ride his ass or her ass and make her fulfill my dreams for me. I'll even name him or her Dayton Jr. That way I can feel important because my name will never die. But there is enough bad in the world where I will not intentionally have kids. And I have a bit of a checklist to where I could justify intentionally having kids. You know, if I accidentally had a kid, I'm not going to like lose sleep over it. It'd be cool. We'll play ball together and probably play the piano and stuff. But it's not ideal. And if I had a girl, oh my gosh, anyone who tried to date that girl, whew, I'd kill him. I was telling one of my not like girlfriends dating, like one of my friends who is a girl, and we've been friends for a while. I mentioned to her, she was talking about guys being assholes a little bit, and I'll always support that from any female because we are. But after I listened intently, it's a tough skill for a male to do. I listened without talking to this girl's challenges with a boy. And after listening, I genuinely responded the first thing that came to my mind, because I'm impulsive, another guy thing. And I was like, man, like, myself as a, in terms of dating or just social interactions, I'm kind of a jerk and selfish if I'm not careful. I try to actively correct my guyish tendency to be cruel and selfish. But I still am not always that kind. It's true. And I've been on accident hurtful to at least one or two girls. I wouldn't want my own daughter dating somebody who has the character of myself. That's weird, but you know my point. But I'm way more reasonable than most every guy. And I don't even like how my brain works. That's why my daughter would either have to be a lesbian or not attracted to anything except books and music. Guys are crazy. And then you got the robots taking over, and I think that's not good. Letting AI run free, artificial intelligence, for those that aren't into tech as much. If you let artificial intelligence and machine learning just run free with no real off switch, I mean, that's like assisted suicide to humans. It really is. Because I'm a big fan of technology in some ways. Like this new beta program I was messing with earlier. So I can play celebrities. I can play the supercomputer and turn it up to 3200. And I actually drew against the supercomputer maximum, but I use this new beta program, so it's kind of cheating. But like, I can play any streamer I want. Who's this guy? Nah, he's not rated that high. Okay. So Morphy, Paul Morphy. Oh, he's a big deal. He's dead now. But so I could beat this guy as bad as I want. I could beat this past grandmaster. Absolutely demolish this guy. You know why? Because computers are real cool. And then that's the problem. It's never going to make a wrong move. It gives me the best 3 moves and the best 3 lines. And then I will beat this guy as bad as I want. Okay. That's a great thing for my confidence. It's also a great thing for my learning. But it's also incredibly, ooh, you're sacrificing some stuff, Paul. But it's also very, very scary. Good move. If this type of power gets into the wrong hands. Because if I played Paul Morphy's robot thing straight up, do you know how bad he would beat me? As bad as he wanted to. Actually, literally, he'd beat me as bad as he wanted to. Take a queen, please. Let's fork some stuff, right? No? Yeah, come on, I got to. Computer says no. Computer knows more than I. And that gets to the point where if you could bring Jesus back to life, which the way things are looking, I hope he's coming. Okay, thank you. And let Jesus be the one to have, let's protect our pawn, have admin rights to turn off the supercomputer if it gets out of control. I trust Jesus, man. Big fan of Jesus. What the Bible says about Jesus, not as much of what the church says about Jesus. Some churches, not all. A lot of churches are great. Some are doing anything they can to manipulate to get more money, and that's not Jesus' fault. That's people's fault. But unless Jesus comes back to life to be the admin for these supercomputers and make sure they're only used for good, curing cancer, diabetes, stuff like that, if it's not Jesus, we got to do something to keep him from ruling the world. It's not going to be pretty for us, guys. And this is a controversial example of a worst case scenario with supercomputers. Something I do that's actually helped me a lot is if I'm struggling or worrying about something, I write down the absolute worst case scenario that could possibly arise. Rook to b5, sure. I'm not even thinking anymore. I'm just going to win this game. But the worst possible case scenario, starting with that is good, because then kind of like the underdog. I like being the underdog because now I have nothing to lose. You know, you get the worst out of your mind, and now you can calmly proceed and try to improve the situation. A5, okay, sure. And the worst case scenario with how out of control supercomputers and AI could get if they fell into the wrong hands would be this. I don't like Adolf Hitler. I don't like anything about him. He was a monster. And I don't even consider him a leader. I mean, you could argue the charisma and stuff and his ability to get people to believe in his cause. You could justify that in a way as him having leadership skills, but I can't do that. So picture somebody as evil as Hitler was. You know, Hitler he was an absolute monster, and he accomplished his goal of of getting people to follow him and his mission. He accomplished that through manipulation, a lot of charisma, and there were rare people. There are very few people who possess the unique social gifts of Adolf Hitler. I hate to say gifts, but he was a gifted social person. Not a leader, not a good person, but charisma and ability to get people to believe in his cause. He had that. Okay, what are you doing? And it's good that not many people have the talents socially Hitler did, so they can't take over the world. That's good. But even now, and it will get worse with AI as it gets better, you don't have to have the social gifts of Hitler to do the evil Hitler did. You know, Hitler had the evil and social gifts to do terrible things to people. Now you don't even have to be good at leading or anything. You just have to be evil, and the computer will do it for you. And that's what scares me a lot. It really does. Rook e8 check. Let's do it, sure. You have the audacity to check me? Talk like a normal person, Morphy. You have the audacity to check me. Yeah, I do. Because I'm not scared of you because I'm playing with a supercomputer. But then you do truly get into a scenario where if you have supercomputers and they're just controlled by whoever has the most money or power. Money is power, unfortunately. Then the only way you could possibly live comfortably and or safely in a world where supercomputers are active and in the control of evil/rich people Money is not evil. I didn't mean it like that. And don't misquote I've actually heard a misquote from the Bible, which frustrates me now. I've heard the quote, money is the root of all evil. That's been quoted to my brain. This came into my brain from another human mouth in a church one time. The correct version of that quote, I want to say, is actually the love of money is the root of all evil. That's a huge difference. The love of money versus just money. That's why I think Jesus would be a big fan of me, though I would say, Rooksy too. I would say probably some churches would not like me as much as Jesus might, but that's okay. I'd prefer Jesus like me than humans anyway. Joke's on them. G4, okay. But anyway, money is power. And the only way I could see living safely and happily in a world where supercomputers are controlled by the most powerful and they do use it for evil is to limit the computer from querying. It's not querying. I mean, that's probably an accurate term, but complicated term. But the only way would be to keep that computer from gaining information about me as a person. So for example, I deleted all my social media for a few reasons, mainly just for my own happiness. I don't like being compared to other people. If I can keep from it, it's not healthy. I don't like comparing myself to other people because I'm me, baby. Okay, 7. Check, sure. But another primary reason why I don't get on social media at all, actually, anymore, and it was lonely, and it was like a drug withdrawal at first, really was. But the reason for that is, if computers do get to the point where they are used even more as a tool for just gaining power and control, just like you're seeing with this chess battle, this supercomputer that's giving me the correct moves every time so I never err, it's unbeatable. Just like with Google's Alpha 0 or whatever. They just gave it the rules, and with the elite machine learning tools and resources Google possesses, it taught itself chess, and chess is real complicated. And so I think of it like, if you took away the rules from that incredibly sophisticated, accurate, impressive Google Alpha 0 chess program, if you took away the rules, it wouldn't matter how impressive the AI or resources behind it are. It wouldn't know how to play chess, and then I could beat it. I could beat an AI chess playing thing. And that's why I deleted my social media, because if I don't give Facebook or computers the rules or information of how I think and how I work, which is too late, they'll probably find it anyway somehow. But if it doesn't know that much about me, that's the only way I would really stand a chance logically, because if supercomputers know the rules of the game, they're going to accomplish the mission. And I don't like feeling like I'm on a mission to be accomplished. I feel like a girl being taken advantage of at a bar, and I don't like that people do that. So that's why I don't get on social media. I don't want you to know stuff about me. I'm not for sale, neither is my data. I don't care what agreement I signed with Apple unknowingly. F4. F5, why not? I'm not going to argue with you. You're a supercomputer, right? And again, I'm not here to say like we should just make everything super hard and restrict everything with computers, because that's dumb. Because computers do a lot of cool stuff too. They really do. Just like most things, they were intended for a good cause. I think Facebook was too. I think everything was. And then when you get money in the picture too much, that's always how it works. Human nature is to be curious. And it's helped me personally to always try to differentiate characteristics of people, or the human nature side of the equation, try to differentiate that from a specific human's behavior. Because, for example, like if somebody is a absolute snake in business, like they will do whatever it takes, they'll step on someone, ruin someone's life, their career, their reputation, just because they want a little more money and power. You know, I've learned if they can justify and sleep with themselves at night by doing that, that's not my problem. F8. Sure. You can have as many queens as you want as long as I still have attacking chances. Now you don't, Paul. Sorry. You have nothing on me. But that's up Paul real quick. King G7. Sure. But as soon as it gets to the point where, like Google, I believe a long time ago, was kind of to that point where they had to go and get some funding, otherwise it would not last and become anything, because they'd run out of money. And that's when you get greedy people who take something that was initially designed for good, and they morph it into something that is very negative and mean and bad for society overall. I'm not saying Google is. That's just an example. I don't know enough about Google to really have much of an opinion. Which is why, as long as there's regulations that are enforced and not just swept under the rug, then technology certainly needs to stay. Good game, Paul. I never lost like that. Chess theory has developed a lot in my absence. I'm just better than you, right, Paul? And to get a sense of just how much better Paul Morphy really is than Dayton Carr in chess. It's a lot. It's a big gap. Okay. So Paul Morphy was an American chess player. He is considered to have been the greatest chess master of his era and the unofficial world champion. Paul was a big deal. Real good at chess, right? Why did he stop playing chess? Schizophrenia would do it. That'd be bad. Schizophrenia, that's interesting. That's a miserable disease. I'll open up a little bit. I don't have schizophrenia. One time in college, I switched medication, thinking it would do well for me. And I developed a little bit of a schizophrenic experience, and that was painful. So I'm sorry, Paul, but maybe I should have played chess during that experience, huh? Maybe I had to play like Paul Morphy. But yeah, Paul was real good at chess. He would beat me as bad as he wanted to if he came back from the dead. But I just played as a robot. And I beat Paul as bad as Paul would beat me normally, which is why computers need some restrictions, you know? And it would get to the point where I won't go into depth about my experience, because I'd prefer some lawyers help me out with the Walmart thing. But I don't really want the money. They could probably just keep the money of the lawsuit. I think I gift wrapped the lawsuit, if that were possible, against Walmart. It's more the principle for me. I don't even want the money, actually. But they'll take any information, anything you've ever done in your past, and then write your own script of your life for you. You know, they'll say, you struggled with depression, and you may or may not have a bipolar disorder. And then they'll twist that. So anything you say, even if it's genuine and accurate and proven based on data, and it's well documented, they will take anything you've ever done negative in your life and use it against you, so you cannot challenge authority. And that's dangerous. It's really bad. because the only people crazy enough to challenge authority probably do have a little bit of problems mentally, but it don't mean they're stupid. Bipolar, people with autism, generally brilliant, almost always, but you got to give them a chance. Like, for example, I don't go to big parties ever, never have. And when I did, I tried a few times in college. At a big party, it's like I hear all the conversations. I can't focus on one conversation, that's why I lean towards autism. So if you saw me at a party on a Friday night in college, I mean, literally, you could say it looks maybe like Paul with schizophrenia. Like, I can't handle it. But if you get me in a small group or a one-on-one setting, some people are very surprised, actually. Like, they'll see me at a party and they're like, something's wrong with him. Or there's one girl that was like, her friend was like, she thought you were cute. So she saw you at the party. She thought you were weird as fuck. And I'm like, that's reasonable. It's not her fault. I act weird at parties. But, like, if someone sees me at a party and meets me there, but then talks to me in a small group or one-on-one later, and they realize I'm kind of smart sometimes, it's like a weird, shocking moment to them. It's almost like I'm a different person, but it's because in the context of the situation, like, and that's the thing is, do you really want a situation or a world where, they could take the me at parties and frame that for society to see, where I'm kind of scared and I'm a little bit awkward and I just don't like all the noise. Whereas in reality, my nature and the person I really am comes out in settings where I can think, I can slow down. There's not a lot of alcohol, and powerful people such as Walmart would prefer to never have that side of Dayton be shown, because that side will call them on their BS confidently and accurately. My new definition of a miserable person is someone who intentionally hurts someone who is defenseless. I'm not saying I've never been in a position where I've accidentally done that just out of anger. I'm a human. But I am saying I was a miserable person at the time where I did accidentally, let my anger get to the point where I hurt someone to make myself feel better. And it's rare, but I have done it and I'm not proud of it. But can you imagine someone harming that intentionally? Hey, Nova, smile, baby, give your best smile. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful monster right there. She's sweet. She's innocent. She would never hurt anybody unless they fucked with dad. Then she'll go after him, and she's loyal. And if someone were to hurt Nova, I don't need to know anything about them besides they hurt Nova. They're a miserable person. Just like if somebody beat up or bullied someone with autism, that's a miserable person. I'm not saying they're going to be bad forever or they don't have potential to change or that Jesus doesn't love them. I'm saying I don't love them. And that's why I don't like being criticized. I don't like people not agreeing with me. It's human nature to want to fit into society. It's human nature to want to be part of a group and not want your life dug into or be harassed or your family receive negative publicity. But also, just like if I saw somebody, if I was on a date with the girl in my dreams, which I found her, I just don't want to mention it. Talk about that. I don't want to do that. But if I was on a date with this girl in my dreams, we'll call her Queen. We'll call her Queen after the game of chess, most valuable attacking piece. So if I'm on a date with Queen and she thinks I'm tough, like I've BS'd her and told her I can fight, told her I'm a badass, I'm real strong, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay. And then I see this nice, innocent kid with autism getting beat up by two adults who appear to be trained fighters. And then this girl's like, you said you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu and they're messing with that kid who has autism and you're not going to do anything? Like, what kind of man are you? Like, Queen is going to find out I can't really fight. Okay. if I go fight those guys who are trained fighters, I'm going to get beat up and she's going to know I'm a liar. I'm a little bit persuasive. I've taken a few courses through corporate America. I've read some books about manipulation, mainly for self-defense, because they'll do some stuff to you, man, mentally. Like, they'll mess you up if you don't defend yourself. So I've learned a little bit about manipulation just from a self-defense perspective. I could probably lie my way out of that and get her to believe like I had a rotator cuff injury or surgery, or like, that kid with autism that's getting kicked is really an actor and it's not real, and they're gonna stop kicking him. So that's why I don't need to fight. Something like that to make me seem like a good person, but still let that dream girl believe I can fight. But I'd have to go to sleep that night knowing I let that kid with autism get beat up, I couldn't do it. So again, fighting's dumb, but I would hope that even if I knew I was going to get beat up and I saw someone with a young kid with autism or Nova getting hurt intentionally, I would hope I'd risk injury. I don't think not that females can't fight too. I'm a feminist, guys. But I don't think you're a man if you just sit there and let someone with autism, for example, get beat up. And that's the same way I felt at times in my situation at my previous job at Walmart Corporate. Certain people, I won't say their names, but their last names begin with a W. They make, they're worth so many billions of dollars because their dad's name happened to also start with a W. At least one of those last name W persons, I don't know them. I don't know her. She happened to do something, and I haven't looked into details because I don't care, but something that was not super legal, it seemed like. She ain't got nothing. She's probably up on stage at shareholders that next year because she's got money. If me or you did something that was illegal or dangerous or hurt people and it was against the law, such as maybe drinking and driving, I don't know, we'll be in prison where we belong to either learn our lesson, get help, or rot, because you don't do that. And the fact that people with money can just do whatever they want essentially in our society today is something that, just like the situation with a person with autism, I feel like you should stand up for that. And if I could rewind time, I would have just quit as opposed to doing some things. And really, it should have been national news already. You can't just, certain things you just don't do to people. But I would have just quit and laid low. But you back someone in a corner long enough, and I do have a history of depression, which generally people like Paul Morphy had depression. They have exceptional social or creative gifts at the very least that most normal people do not. I found that to be true. But you don't want to mess with someone like, I'm not going to put myself in the class of Paul Morphy, but you don't want to mess with someone with a history of depression, not because usually they're actually nice people and smart people, but for the simple reason they're also very talented people. And I personally perform better externally, my physical play in basketball or racquetball or my memorization. I memorize decks of cards for fun. It's weird, but not to me. And I play better chess when I'm stressed or very hurt or mistreated. And it sucks because, like, someone with autism or bipolar disorder, like, you think of a movie scene or you think of like the worst book that dramatizes mental health disorders, and you think of like someone who looks like, they might have tics, or they might make poor eye contact, or they might do a lot of things that I don't. I've done some things to address like eye contact challenges that I've had in the past, for example, but just because I happen to have been decent at sports and was usually somewhat popular through sports, no one ever would have assumed, or a lot of people wouldn't have even listened. I tried to tell a few people out of loneliness and desperation that I had some depressive issues, and I usually received a response such as, "I'll pray for you." And I'm like, it's not how it works. I'm like, I appreciate the prayer, and I still do. I think prayer is a great thing, and I think it can be effective. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I love church and I'm getting back into Jesus after a few bad experiences as a kid with people, not Jesus. But the "I'll pray for you" thing has to at least be edited in our society, because prayer is good. I think doing something is good too. You know, like if I walked by, again, that example with somebody hurting, someone with autism, and I was like, "I'll pray for you. Yeah, I'll pray that he stops kicking you in the neck." I think Jesus would be like, "Do something." Just my opinion. He gave us free will for a reason, probably, which is to pray and then act on it. It's kind of a lazy cop-out, in my opinion. But that is very hurtful. And I'm not mad at anyone who has prayed for me in the past and then went and, hey, I'll pray for you, but I'm going to go sin. There's something wrong with you for thinking logically and deeply, but I don't want to talk about it. I want to pray for you. And that doesn't mean they're a bad person, but it does mean but it does further my motivation to talk about depression a little bit, because no amount of prayer, assuming, if we were created by a God, and I won't go down the religion rabbit hole too much either, but if we're created by a God, and assuming, I'm not saying I believe this necessarily, our brains were designed by God, and mental health disorders, science, even Christians, most Christians would agree that bipolar disorder, autism, ADD are actual real chemical imbalances in the brain. So if God gave us, or gave me, for example, a disease such as bipolar disorder, okay, I'm not mad about that. I'm a big fan of bipolar disorder. A lot of people are real smart with it, do a lot of cool stuff. But I think it's silly to, if a Christian friend were to say, "I'll pray for your mood swings to stop." Like, you're asking the person that gave them to me, assuming that God or Jesus in that example were the one to create my brain chemistry, which is a silly thing when you think about it. You're going to ask the person to fix something that person messed up originally, or not messed up, but you're going to fix the disease they created. I think the moral of that rant was, I don't want to live in a world where we just, we hope that gets fixed. We hope that person gets helped. We hope that old lady crosses the street well. No, go walk her across the street, man. Don't pray for her to get across the street. Don't pray that, or it's okay. Like, my opinion, do pray that things get better in the world. Do pray for Jesus to fix some of the corruption, or have a hand in making sure that powerful people make unselfish decisions. Like, do pray for those things. But also, if you're a Christian, I think it'd be good to listen to your heart, or listen to Jesus, so he can actually use you to help the cause you're praying for, or just go do something. Like it's really frustrating to me. Everywhere I turn, it's like everyone's just hoping. That things get fixed. They want racial inequality to not be so ridiculously sided towards white males. I don't love that white males have all the money, or a lot of the money and power. I just happen to be one, and I don't like a lot of white males. I've got some dumb white friends. I've got some really smart African American friends. So, but I will say, I'm not saying I always take every opportunity to stand up for racial inequality, because silence is acceptance. But I will say, I don't it does frustrate me when people just pray, for things like racial inequality to improve, and then they go and either do things to make it worse or they go play video games. That's why I actually drove to Chicago and saw a friend before starting One Night Stand, and I kind of talked about a podcast. We went to Guitar Center in Chicago, which is a freaking cool guitar center. I almost moved there, but no, it wouldn't do well in a big city. And then I went through like a week or maybe even a couple weeks spell where I'm just like, procrastinating. Like, I'm going to do the podcast thing. I'm like, and then finally my friend was like, dude, you going to do a podcast? And I was like, yep. It was like everyone's waiting around for someone else to do something. And I waited hoping that, like I mentioned, Lupe Fiasco would start a podcast and start saying some true wise stuff, but he has not, to my knowledge, started a podcast yet, which is why I started one. And last thing on my rant for this evening, someone has a better idea or a better podcast, challenge my ideas. If there's a better podcast called One Night Stand that helps more people and adds more value to society, take my like I don't want to just be good or have people listen to me because my ideas are the only way. Like, the only way that things get fixed is you got to challenge respectfully people's ideas and talk about them. Because the first step to fixing a problem, you got to admit it's a problem. And unfortunately, my concern with America today, and I'm not an expert on politics, but to get things fixed would take the following: to fix corruption in big business, to fix a lot of the challenges with cybersecurity that Biden's working on. It would take enough powerful people to admit they broke it in the first place. That's why let's get Lupe Fiasco up there. We'll start clean. Let Lupe fix it. And also, like Bo Burnham's Inside, that was a little too personal with Bo, though it was clever and brilliant material. If anyone hates any of my ideas that I just shared or ever share on this channel, I've taken a lot of emotional beating, and not to make excuses because I'm not a victim. I actually emailed Walmart's CEO and thanked him for signing off on the torture of his people, because it makes you stronger, and it made me stronger that they just sit there and let you get kicked. But just like Bo, he didn't look his best in Inside. He looked pretty messed up in some of those skits, songs, whatever. So I'll claim temporary insanity, because the human brain was not meant to be in isolation for over a year. So don't get mad at me. Get mad at the pandemic isolating my brain and coming up with creative ideas, baby. Because I think best when I'm under pressure. All right. I'm done ranting for today.